What's up guys, JV2017 here, and today I'm going to share what I believe to be the top 10 worst perks in Fallout 4. And this is pretty much a follow-up to the top 10 best perks video I made a few days ago, but this time I'm ranking the perks that I think aren't really worth it for any build because they're just that terrible. And I want to apologize once again, I'm going to be nasally throughout this video, still fighting off that mole rat disease. I want to encourage you all to list your top 10 worst perks in the comments below so we can all share our thoughts together. I just want to remind everyone that these are opinions and not personal attacks on your character. You know, if you love Aqua Boy and you think Aqua Boy is the best perk in the game, don't worry about it. Just tell me in the comments below and we'll have a conversation. So here we go. These are my top 10 worst perks in Fallout 4 in no particular order. First, we're looking at Lead Belly, and this gives you less radiation from eating or drinking, and then at rank 3, you'll have no radiation suffered from eating or drinking. So this, in my opinion, might be the single most useless perk in the game because there's just so much you can pick up. There's an abundance of purified water and stim packs to replenish your health, as well as Radaway to remove your radiation. There's no reason to eat any of the food that has radiation on it that you find out in the world, even on the current survival mode. And we're not talking about the new enhanced version coming out soon. I'm talking about the current game as it is right now as I upload this video. We don't have the new survival mode. In the current survival mode, you don't need to eat any of the food you find. You find plenty of other things to increase your health or remove that radiation. Also, you can cook your food, which immediately takes all of the radiation out of it. All in all, unless they reduce the amount of stim packs and Radaway you can find out in the world, no amount of DLC will make this perk worth it in my opinion. I think it's a complete waste. Unless they scale back stim packs in the new survival mode, I don't think that Lead Belly will be worth it unless, maybe the radiation really does take its toll in the new survival mode and really rank 3 of this perk will be really useful in the new survival mode. We don't know how tough it's going to be yet, but I don't see it being useful. Next is Aquaboy, and I've seen, wow, I can travel across water without taking radiation damage. It saves so much time and it's so useful. I love this perk. I've seen that from plenty of people. The problem is that you can get one item in the game that makes the perk completely useless, and you can get it within the first 5 hours of a playthrough, and that's the hazmat suit. You can find plenty of hazmat suits out in the world. They're easy to get. Now, I don't believe the hazmat suit lets you breathe underwater, that's a thing, but if you want to do that, you can easily make Mirelurk cakes at a cooking station that allow you to breathe underwater for 30 minutes, and then boom, you can do all of the underwater exploring or whatever you want to do in the water just by doing those two things and not taking Aquaboy. The only thing this perk really gives you that's valuable is being undetectable when submerged, but the practical application of that is really not there right now. I can't think of a single scenario in my 400 plus hours where I've needed to be undetectable when submerged. It just hasn't come into, use for me. That's not something I've needed. Maybe in Far Harbor it will become more useful, but right now I think this perk is no more than a convenience kind of thing for lazy people, or just for people who don't know about the hazmat suit and the Mirelurk cake. Next is Rad Resistant, which has 3 ranks, each giving you plus 10 radiation resistance. So this is terrible because the Vault jumpsuit that you start out at the beginning of the game already has 10 rad resistance off the bat. So that already gives you an indication of how much rad resistance is available in the game. The power armor that you get in the first hour of the game already gives you around 1,000 radiation resistance with all of the parts. I think even more than that. If you need to go to the glowing sea, for example, you're just going to bring your power armor that the game hands out to you. It doesn't make sense to take this perk in my opinion. And like I've already said, there's plenty of Radaway and Rad-X to reduce and prevent radiation damage in the first place. I think this perk needs a serious buff to actually make sense since it's all the way down at Endurance 6. Like plus 100 radiation resistance for each rank makes a lot more sense to me than just 10 per rank. Moving target is next. This gives you extra damage and energy resistance when you are sprinting, and rank 3 reduces the action point drain from sprinting. So personally, I'm not a big fan of conditional perks, things that only activate while you're doing a certain thing or while you have a certain state or condition. So this only activates when you're sprinting. Only when you're sprinting. You can't do anything while you're sprinting. That's a big problem for me in the game. There's only 2 combat applications for sprinting. Either you're rushing at an enemy to close the gap as a melee or short range kind of shotgun build, or you're running away from the enemy. At Agility 6, I just don't think it's worth any kind of investment. I mean, I've recommended it in a few of my melee builds just because it's already there and you need to get Blitz, in my opinion, to be super viable with a melee build. It's just something that can be tacked onto a melee build that kind of makes sense. So Moving target doesn't have a lot of practical application in my opinion. Again, you can't do anything while you're sprinting. There's nothing you can actually do. You can't shoot or do anything while you're sprinting. Some may say, hey, I want to reduce the AP while sprinting because I like to sprint around the world and I want to get to places faster. Sure, I guess that makes a little bit of sense if you're already up there in agility, but that's at rank 3. You have to invest those first 2 points and they're kind of useless in my opinion. Now we're looking at Vans, and this is pretty much the same as the Skyrim Illumination spell, I believe, that lights your way towards the objective. It's got like a golden path that you can follow. I guess I can't speak from the perspective of a new player. I don't have that perspective of, oh, I don't know where I'm going, this is a Fallout game, this is really confusing. But I have heard that half of the time this perk doesn't even lead you the right way. It's buggy, and obviously not worth it for veterans of the franchise that know how to navigate the wasteland. So if you've played previous Fallout games, you're like, Vans? I don't need this. I'm just going to follow the objective marker and I know that I'll get there somehow. While I don't think it's fair to write this perk off because I am experienced with the franchise, the fact that it doesn't work half of the time is the reason it makes my most useless perks list. Next, we're moving to the strength tree and looking at Basher. So Basher does have one practical purpose. If you're playing a shotgun build, in my opinion, this makes sense. If you're running out of ammo or you're using a double barrel shotgun, you'll need to reload a lot and you'll be out of ammo. It makes sense to bash your weapon. But most of the time, if you have bullets in your gun, it probably makes more sense to just shoot your enemies instead of bashing them with your gun. I can't see it being smart to run up to your enemies on purpose to bash them, using like a basher-based build, especially if they're armed with ranged weapons. You're just going to get lit up, especially on higher difficulties. With a lot of these perks that I chose, I try to be cognizant of certain play styles, and I think Basher does suit a certain play style. That's what it's intended for, but I don't think the play style makes a lot of sense. I don't think bashing enemies makes a lot of sense at all. It's a cool addition, it's cool animations and whatnot, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense to, dedicate a perk towards it, in my opinion. Now we're looking at Refractor. This has 5 ranks, each giving you plus 10 energy resistance for a total of 50 resistance. So this is supposed to be the energy version of toughness. Toughness gives you damage resistance, up to 50, just like this perk. First off, this is a huge investment at Perception 7. It's way down there. And it's only really worth it if you're already that far into Perception for another reason, like, Sniper or, Concentrated Fire or Penetrate or one of those perks. Second off, Ballistic Weave will offer more resistance for less of a perk investment. You only need armor at strength 3 for, Ballistic Weave. Third, you need to put 5 points into this to get a decent amount of resistance at 50 energy resistance. In my opinion, this is just not worth it. Maybe you're fighting the Institute and you're going to go against a lot of laser weapons, and this makes a lot of sense. That's the only application I could see this being worth it, but still, Ballistic Weave just outclasses this perk far and away. Next is Quick Hands. This is like Sleight of Hand. You reload your guns quicker, and then rank 2, you don't have any AP cost when you have to reload in VATS. So the second rank is useful, but it's way down at Agility 8. In Fallout 4, while it does have better FPS gun mechanics than its predecessors, it's still not a Twitch shooter. It's not a Call of Duty type game. If you're using a double-barreled shotgun, a laser musket, or some kind of heavy weapon, then reloading more quickly might be useful. But overall, reloading is not really the problem if you're having issues. You're not having people killing you in like half a second like you would in a Twitch shooter like, Call of Duty, like I already said. So this is, for me, just kind of an why not kind of perk. If I'm already down, if I'm going for gun fu, for example, which is, the only reason you'd be down at Agility 8, unless you just really like your action points, this is kind of like, it's there, I'll take it, why not? Next is Steady Aim, which increases your hipfire accuracy with each rank. And so, generally speaking, this does have a practical application, I would say, with, larger weapons like minigun, your rocket launchers, those kind of weapons, and your shotguns. But by and large, I'm not going to be hip firing a lot, and I'm a believer in VATS. I think VATS is undeniably the most deadly, efficient way to kill things in the game. It also builds your critical meter, whereas if you're not using VATS, it doesn't. And there are some people who don't like to use VATS in this game, and that's true. That's fine. That's a way to play the game. However, I don't think that hip firing, even if you're not using VATS, is a very effective method of playing the game. It's just a waste of ammunition, and in this game, while there is plenty of ammunition, sometimes there's not, especially if you're playing on harder difficulty modes. You're going to be using a lot more ammunition because, enemies are more bullet spongy. I just don't like Steady Aim that much. My final most useless perk on my list is Ghoulish, and for me, this is more of a role-playing perk than anything, since there's plenty of ways to replenish health and plenty of ways to avoid radiation in the first place. I don't think this is actually necessary. Only if you're intentionally avoiding all stim packs, doing one of those, Twitch streamer playthroughs, which I've seen, where people only rely on Ghoulish to play through the game, or other forms of aid or role playing and pretending that your sole survivor is a ghoul, then I don't see it being really that useful right now. Perhaps it'll be a lifesaver on the new survival mode coming soon. I mean, I think this genuinely could be a real lifesaver because radiation is going to be a lot more dangerous than it ever was before. Now it's going to be your friend in this new survival mode, and so Ghoulish could be a lot more useful, but in the current game right now as I'm uploading this video, Ghoulish is really just a novelty perk. As I said before, I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your worst perks in the game? Do you think I'm crazy on some of these? Do you think some of these are actually useful? Tell me what you think. Share all of your thoughts in the comment section below. Give me your top 10 worst perks in the game. Alright guys, today I shared my top 10 worst perks in Fallout 4, and next time we will cover more Fallout on my channel, so stay tuned for Fallout 4 tips and tricks videos. If you learned something new, remember to hit that like button, I would really appreciate it, and don't forget to subscribe for more DLC coverage, build guides, and general tips and tricks videos. Talk to you guys next time. Peace!